Love 'em or hate 'em, zombies have infiltrated every genre of gaming, and by the looks of it, they're here to stay. And with After the Fall just a few months away, we figured it was time to look at the other zombie games already available on PlayStation VR. Now we're using the term zombie here pretty loosely to encompass most versions of the undead, but we had to draw the line somewhere, so Demons from the Walker and In Death didn't make the cut. And sadly, I had to admit that Resident Evil 7 is a game about the Baker family and the Molded, not about zombies. So let's check out what did make the list. Here's every zombie game on PlayStation VR, starting with the worst one out there. We don't have enough endless runners on PlayStation VR, and Deadland VR proves that the genre is bursting with possibilities. It's not a great game by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's incredibly janky, has a few more than curious design decisions, and sometimes it just breaks for no reason at all. But it's $6, and despite being unable to recommend it, Deadland was a huge guilty pleasure of mine, and I'd love to see what a bigger studio could do with this idea. With a name like Pancake House, you'd think you'd be in for an over-the-top adventure with interesting locations and goofy weapons. But Pancake House takes itself extremely seriously, leading to a halfway decent story with halfway decent voice acting. Unfortunately, the gameplay here is practically non-existent, and there's nothing to do but walk from point A to point B shooting zombies, with corridor-like environments, no collectibles, and weapon crates found every 100 feet or so, alleviating the need to ever conserve ammo. Probably one of the more unexpected games on this list, Gun Club's enemies are flat cardboard cutouts. But that doesn't make the zombie levels any less stressful. They come at you in huge hordes and test your shooting accuracy and reloading precision. As much as we love Gun Club around here, it's not what I'd consider a great zombie game. So it's definitely an interesting addition to the list, but certainly not a must-have for horror fans. Seemingly ripped straight out of the 16-bit era when brawlers and platformers ruled supreme, Bloody Zombies is a 4-player beat-em-up that somehow really works in VR. Sure, it's third person and the characters have that parappa paper-thin quality, but that's all part of the charm. It's not bad with friends.
You ain't got nothing!
I'm sure Throw Anything isn't what you think of when someone brings up VR zombie games, but even though it's not a traditional run-and-gun shooter, Throw Anything might be the most accurate depiction of what you'll be doing when the zombie apocalypse breaks out. Breaking everything in sight and tossing it out the window to knock zombies off the side of the building was really fun, but it was also overpriced, really short-lived. In a world dominated by AAA games, developer Pixel Junk has always been known for making incredibly addictive indie games. Dead Hungry almost succeeds in that category. You make burgers, pizzas, fries, and more from your food truck to satisfy the hunger of oncoming zombies. The progression system is fun and you unlock more and more abilities with each level, but the environments and enemies don't change enough, so it gets old faster than it should. The quality of Contagion VR Outbreak is all over the place. The first half of the first level looks really polished, but the second you walk out onto the street, it just feels sloppy. Not to mention the controls are kind of a mess. There was a huge update since launch, adding a 4th level called Biotech, and it basically doubles the size of the game and adds a ton of variety. Ultimately, Contagion is a fun zombie shooter. It's just not a terribly good game. Like a terrible wave shooter, the Brookhaven experiment glues your feet to the floor, forcing you to do the one thing you'd never want to do when the zombie apocalypse hits: stand still. But like a really good wave shooter, it supports both the moves and the aim controllers, allows you to purchase and upgrade weapons between rounds, and is atmospheric as hell. This one does a ton of justice to horror games and wave shooters. stunning environments, and a 2-player co-op campaign will wow you out of the gate with killing floor incursion, but the campy story, long-winded narrator, boring cutscenes, and occasional game-breaking bugs keep it from placing higher on this list. Still, there's a good variety of weapons, zombies can be dismembered and their own body parts can be used against them, and the frequent sale price of $7 or $8 makes this one worthy of picking up. Based on the AMC TV series rather than the comic book, The Walking Dead Onslaught attempts to bridge the gap between seasons 8 and 9, but the story missions where you play as Daryl end up being the worst part of Onslaught. Luckily, there's still a lot of good stuff happening here, with fun scavenging missions, unlocking new weapons, and a somewhat decent progression system. Just don't expect too much, and you might not be let down. We've criticized Arizona Sunshine pretty heavily over the years, but as a zombie shooter, it delivers on a lot of what we look for in the genre. Gameplay variety, massive undead hordes, actual scares, there's a lot here to like. Plus you can play through the entire campaign in 2-player co-op, or take on the horde mode with 3 friends. The $40 price point is still way too high, but luckily, this one goes on sale for about $12 a few times a year. Fans of System Shock or stealth or sci-fi or horror should already own the Persistence. It's a procedurally generated roguelite with 4 decks to explore on a huge ship that's being sucked into a black hole out in deep space. Upgradable abilities and weapons help build your confidence death after death, but new enemies that stalk you relentlessly will shatter that confidence just as fast. When it came to making this list, I struggled with deciding which games even qualified as zombie games. But really, once you get past the first hour of Immortal Legacy The Jade Cipher, human enemies fall by the wayside, and the undead become the new force to be reckoned with. Despite a shockingly divisive reception, Immortal Legacy continues to be one of my favorite games on the platform, and the puzzles, story, atmosphere, and bosses make it much, much more than a straightforward zombie shooter. This won't come as any surprise to anyone who watches without Parole. Saints and Sinners is such a masterpiece from beginning to end, and it does the zombie apocalypse justice. Gathering resources and crafting weapons, staples of any good zombie game, are just the tip of the iceberg. There's also a fun story here, plenty of tense situations, huge hordes of zombies, and a ton of abilities to upgrade, all which makes Saints and Sinners not only one of the best zombie games on PSVR, but also one of the best PlayStation VR games, period.
Or do you prefer it up close? Personal. It's a big world out there. And there's no one left to tell us what to do. So tell me, tourist.